Did Mohammed go to hell? This is a question I'm addressing because there are some near-death experience witnesses, former Muslims, that have reported dying and being medically documented in hospitals, being dead, and before being revived, they encountered Jesus. They and were sent back, but before they had, some of them had seen hell, saw themselves going to hell, and there's been a few reports of seeing Muhammad in burning and all the Muslims with him. Now, addressing what is written in the Bible of why someone might end up in hell, and these witnesses, I want to first address the difference between the standard Islamic narrative today and what Muhammad actually wrote. We don't know what all Muhammad wrote. In a court of law, we don't have any eyewitnesses, so no surviving manuscripts. We have some early witnesses, and the earliest witness we have, I say, one that's an adversarial witness. One we call John of Damascus in English. His name was Yanan ibn Mansur ibn Sargon. He was a Syrian, and he left the service of Abdel Malik bin Marwan. Right before the Marwan went to build the mosque on the Holy Temple Mount in Jerusalem. 691, he left and became a monk. He was a Christian. He was a Syrian Christian. He could speak the language, Arabic, and he could speak Aramaic, and he could read, Hebrew, and he was Greek and all that. He was very educated, but he left the services of Abdel. And one interesting thing is that what he wrote about, he didn't even mention anything. There wasn't mention in his writing about Islam or the term Muslims. He wrote about the heresies of the Ishmaelites. And he said that Muhammad wrote 4 books. One's the woman, and then the book of the camel, which no longer exists. That was discarded. Modern Islam, they rejected that book. And then there's the heifer, the table and the heifer. Now, so according to what John Damascus said about the writings of Muhammad, one thing was that Muhammad said that a man could have 4 wives and 1,000 concubines. And there's an instance where he coveted the wife of his friend. And other accounts changed that to be his nephew or somebody else. But according to John Damascus, it was his friend's wife. And he coveted her. And he had him to divorce his wife so he could take her and have sex with her. And then afterward, he made a law saying that if a man divorces his wife and then wants her back, then he has to let somebody else marry her and then divorce her, and then he can have her back. But he can't have her back unless she first has sex with some other man. Then she can take her back. um, written. And then there's some other strange doctrines. And then another one he wrote in the book of the Heifer. He wrote about, he forbid people to keep the Sabbath. And he said that everybody, he did say that circumcision for men and women. So women had to be circumcised also. And he, so he anyway, he had, these are a few things. Now, the standard Islamic narrative today has been scholarly examined and found that the modern Qurans are have completely corrupted the original writings. There's one English translation, literal. There's only one a literal English translation available of the Quran, and that's a Saint Murad's translation. And he found that there's a lot of terms like jihad weren't in the original Arabic, and of the Quran writing, there's 25% of the words in there are not Arabic, so he didn't translate it. So there's another book written by Gabriel Salman, and he wrote this book, the Quran. He wrote this book, the Quran misinterpreted, mistranslated, and misread the Aramaic language of the Quran. And so between those two books, you can get a better idea of what was actually in the Quran before all the radical jihadists who rewrote the Quran to tell people to commit mass genocide and murders of so many people. But back to the question. Again, on the issue about did Muhammad write what we have in the Quran? There have been some issues, some question: was there really actually any Muhammad? And on the basis of the testimony of John Damascus, I think there was a guy named Muhammad. But according to the language of the text, we know that, and also historical archaeological research into Mecca is highly doubtful that he was born in Mecca, because and certainly all the wars and the trade and all that stuff, it didn't happen in Mecca. Mecca was a desert place. There might have been a little village there, but there was no trade going on in there. And the language of the Quran was originally Aramaic. It's more further north, like up in Damascus. It's a different language, different writing. And then, of course, in Arabic was the first. So when it was first recited, it was a oral tradition, and then there was I think the third caliph. There was Uthman. He's the first one to actually gather up all the writings and put them into one place in a book. But again, according to John Damascus, there wasn't a single Quran. There was still 4 books. So there's some conflict of testimony. But some say that Uthman gathered up everything and he burned everything else. So his translation alone, and it's in Aramaic. And then later on, about 685 AD, there's a guy named 685 AD. So According to legend, Muhammad died in 632 AD. In 685 AD, there's a guy named Abdel Malik bin Marwan. Abdel Malik Marwan, he wrote everything in Arabic. Now, this John Damascus worked for him. Yanan ibn Mansur ibn Sargon worked for Abdel, and then when in 691, about the time, really he minted his first coin, and his first mention of Mohammad and Islam and all that. That's the time that John Damascus left and became a monk, and he went to Jerusalem, and he was a writer. He wasn't known for miracles, so he was not highly esteemed in the church because he didn't do miracles. He just wrote a lot. He was a good writer. But Abdel, he burned all the works of Uthman and published his own Quran. And he had one henchman that went around burning all the Qurans, and in Iraq and all the different nations he went. But he was a big time king, and he's the one that built the temple or the mosque on the Holy Temple Mount. Now, later I don't know when this tradition about this tale of Muhammad riding a donkey or whatever it was, a flying beast from the temple to steeple to heaven and back and forth and all that, because there was no temple during the lifetime of Muhammad on the Temple Mount. There wasn't one there, so he couldn't have been, if he had a dream doing it, but it didn't happen. And then there's the issue of all the teachings of Muhammad. According to the modern standard Quran, hell's going to be full of women. And the reward of the men, not their wife, not the jihadists. They're not going to have their. It's not saying their reward is their wife, that they're going to live in heaven with their wife, and all that. No, they're going to have 70 virgins. They're going to have sex with for eternity. Now I made another video, and I'll let you know that no flesh passes from earth to heaven. I mean, it's the spirit realm. There's no sex in heaven or hell, for that matter. It's spirit body, so there's no sex in heaven or hell. So that's a big lie. But the virgins, 70, but they're supposed to all have big. One, they're all white, so all people of color will not be in the place of the Quran describes as heaven. Praise Jehovah that the Qurans are lying. It's a lie. So one, they're only white women. Two, they have large, round, and full breasts. And so there's very few women, we say like a double H, but even less with perfectly round breasts. So there wouldn't be very many women that would qualify for Muhammad's heaven. So I'm looking at this. This is really crazy, but then it gets worse. You keep reading, and you find that the modern Islamic clerics have opinion or their new doctrine is that their angels are going to be converted into these 70 virgins for every jihadist. That to me is like the spirit of Sodom and Gomorrah, like when when the two angels came to Lot, and they had to bring him out of Sodom and Gomorrah because the men of that city wanted to sodomize the angels. Uh, sick bunch of sick cookies. Okay, they're sick. That's really sick. That's sick. And so obviously the people who wrote the modern Islamic narrative, they're definitely going to hell. They'll definitely be in hell. Now the witnesses that saw Muhammad in hell, I think is very credible, because if we look at what the Bible says. Okay, first of all, let's look at, I'm going to look at Revelations. Now I'm reading from the King James Bible. Revelations chapter 21, verses 8 reads, "But the cowardly, unbelieving, abominable," that's so different, Muslim, abominables, murderers, definitely, all the jihadists, that's it, murderers, and sexually immoral, any man who would be with it would take a little girl for a wife. That's very sick. That's very immoral, and they didn't stop there. So and it also says, okay, the sexually immoral sorcerers, and in Greek it says pharmakia. So they're selling drugs. They push drugs also. Yeah, Hamas, a lot of business with selling drugs. So the idolaters. Okay, so they're worshiping a rock in Mecca. They're going and kissing stones and stuff. That's idolatry. And then all liars. Okay, that's it. Because in Islam, they call Allah the greatest deceiver, and they constantly lie. They make treaties. They say for Islam, they can make a treaty and break it. They can lie and deceive, and that's the practice of Islam. And so that's definitely. And they say, well, they say Muhammad did that, but again, we don't really know what all. We could not convict Mohammed on what we have, evidence we have now, because nothing exists of what he actually wrote. Everything we have is hearsay, so we can say it's very highly probable. But the near-death experiences, the witnesses that died and came back saying I would say very strong, they supported by the evidence that we see. And then him wanting to do away with the Sabbath, that now there's, quite honestly, there's some, the Catholicism is guilty on this place also. They wanted to change this Sabbath. They overrode the Sabbath and told people not to, Roman Catholics could not keep a Sabbath. They had to go to church on Sunday, and Messianic believers were burned at the stake for keeping Sabbath. They called them Judaizers and killed them and burned their Bibles. And so they would not be alone. Muslims would not be alone on breaking this commandment. But what we have here, I have a Hebrew Gospel of Matthew, and I have with the English translation. And if I go here and I read in chapter 5, let's see, verse 17, he said, "Do not think I came to," this is the words of our Messiah, Yeshua HaMashiach, our Sermon on the Mount. He said, "Do not think that I came to break the Torah or the prophets. I did not come to break, but to fulfill." Verse 18, truly I say to you, until heaven and earth pass away, not one yod or one stroke will pass from the Torah until everything is accomplished. So the Ten Commandments haven't been passed away. So that part about not coveting, that stands. The Sabbath, that stands, and worshiping our Father in heaven and not bowing down to idols, all that stands. So there's, according to the Bible, yeah, Muhammad's probably, if what's written about him is true, he's definitely in hell. And so that's definitely I would say that the witnesses that saw him in hell, I would say the evidence from the Bible would support their testimony. So you can go. I suggest Muslims that if you're English speaking and you've only been listening to what people tell you what the Arabic Quran say, you can go get these books. One, the Quran is by Saint Murad, and also to understand the Aramaic words sayings. Oh, by the way, the one about the white women with the big breasts, that was a corruption of pre-Mohammed writings. A long time there was I believe it was Apostle Thomas, but anyway, there was a writing about white grapes being full. And in Aramaic, that's what it says. It talks about white grapes being full and round. But those sick cookies, they changed that to white women with big breasts. So obviously a man-made religion. And in closing, I have my own witness. I've heard, I've met Jesus, Yeshua HaMashiach. When I was paralyzed, he healed me. I've heard his voice. I've seen him. He's Jewish. He has a crown. I've heard Father's voice. Father's real. And I've seen heaven. I've seen hell. This is very, very real. But you can read the Holy Bible and know the truth to be set free from all the lies of men. Don't trust, and in fact, even don't rest with what I have to say, but you can seek your Father in heaven for yourself. You can seek the Son of God, Yeshua HaMashiach, and you can know his voice and know the power of his love in your life and be delivered from all the lying trickeries of men who seek to deceive you. Again, one thing I say, our Savior went to a cross to open the door to heaven to all people of every nation, of every tribe, and it's not a religion. It's all about relationship. And one thing you know about religions, when you look at a religion and there's an absolute ruler, a man, it's not of Jehovah. There's no longer, you don't have to go through a priest. You don't have to go through an intermediary. You can go straight to him and he'll tell you the truth to set you free.